The Battle of the Standard, sometimes called the Battle of Northallerton, in which English forces repelled a Scottish army, took place on the 22nd of August 1138 on Cowton Moor near Northallerton in Yorkshire. The Scottish forces were led by King David I of Scotland. The English were commanded by William of Aumale. King Stephen of England had sent a small force, but the English army was mainly local militia and baronial retinues from Yorkshire and the North Midlands. Archbishop Thurstan of York had exerted himself greatly to raise the army, preaching that to withstand the Scots was to do God's work. The centre of the English position was therefore marked by a mast bearing a pyx carrying the consecrated host and from which were flown the consecrated banners of the ministers of York, Beverley and Ripon, hence the name of the battle. This cart-mounted standard was a very northerly example of a type of standard common in contemporary Italy, where it was known as a carroccio. David had entered England for two declared reasons: to support his niece Matilda's claim to the English throne against that of King Stephen, to enlarge his kingdom beyond his previous gains. David's forces had already taken much of Northumberland apart from castles at Wark and Bamborough, advancing beyond the Tees towards York. Early on the 22nd of August 1138 the Scots found the English army drawn up on open fields 2 miles north of Northallerton. They formed up in 4 lines to attack it. The first attack, by unarmoured spearmen against armoured men supported by telling fire from archers, failed. Within 3 hours, the Scots army disintegrated, apart from small bodies of knights and men-at-arms around David and his son Henry. At this point, Henry led a spirited attack with mounted knights. He and David then withdrew separately with their immediate companions in relatively good order. Heavy Scots losses are claimed, in battle and in flight. The English did not pursue far. David fell back to Carlisle and reassembled an army. Within a month, a truce was negotiated which left the Scots free to continue the siege of Wark Castle, which eventually fell. Despite losing the battle, David was subsequently given most of the territorial concessions he had been seeking. David held these throughout the anarchy, but on the death of David, his successor Malcolm IV of Scotland was soon forced to surrender David's gains to Henry II of England. Some chronicle accounts of the battle include an invented pre-battle speech on the glorious deeds of the Normans, occasionally quoted as good contemporary evidence of the high opinion the Normans held of themselves. Background: David had gained the Scottish throne largely because of the support of his brother-in-law Henry I of England, and he had attempted to remodel Scotland to be more like Henry's England. He had carried out peaceful changes in the areas of Scotland over which he had effective control and had conducted military campaigns against semi-autonomous regional rulers to reassert his authority, in administration, in warfare, and in the settling of regained territory. He had drawn on the talent and resources of the Anglo-Norman lands. The death of Henry I in 1135, weakening England, made David more reliant on his native subjects, and allowed him to contemplate winning control over substantial areas of northern England. Many of the English and Norman magnates and barons were against Matilda because she was married to Geoffrey V, Count of Anjou. On Henry's death, Stephen, a younger brother of Theobald, Count of Blois, seized the throne instead. When Stephen was crowned on the 22nd of December, David went to war. After 2 months of campaigning in northern England, a peace treaty ceding Cumberland to David was agreed. Additionally, David's son Henry was made Earl of Huntingdon, David declining to swear the required oath of loyalty to Stephen, since he had already sworn allegiance to Matilda. In spring 1137, David again invaded England. A truce was quickly agreed. In November, the truce expired. David demanded to be made Earl of the whole of the old earldom of Northumberland. Stephen refused, and in January 1138, David invaded for a third time.